Hello, we will be starting exactly at this scheduled time, which is 6 p.m. We still have 5-6 minutes, right? Yeah. How are you? Where are you from?
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
From Hong Kong.
Kalpna, I'm from Chennai. So we have 5 minutes, sir. We'll just wait for 5-6 minutes and then we'll begin, right? Our guest speaker is here already. Oh, yes, yes. So we have Mrs. Pratibha with us. She's our guest speaker today. And as you can see, she has put in the chat box. If we all can introduce ourselves, that would be great. Yes, so I am just hosting this event on behalf of Mr. Guru. He had to take an urgent travel and he'll be joining us, in some time. So in the meantime, can we just say hello to each other and type our introductions in the chat box? That would be great. So I'll just type mine, your name, the name of your school, and probably where you're from. You don't mind that. All right, so it is 6 p.m. Let's begin. Um, welcome everyone who has already joined. We are expecting a few more guests to join us. And a very good evening to all of you. From the IST, I understand you are all based out of different places, so it may be, different time zones. But still, good evening from India, and greetings. So this session particularly is for ESS IA, and mainly for teachers who are new to ESS and or who have been teaching ESS for around 2 to 3 years. That is including myself. So Ms. Pratibha has been really kind to take time out of her vacation and help us during this time. So we really thank you, ma'am, for being here with us today and helping us understand things, from the perspective of ESS IA. So welcome. And let me just begin by telling a few of the rules that are framed by Guru sir. So I'll just move on to the next slide, just a second. Right, so this is a humble request. Please keep your cameras on throughout the session because it is going to be an engaging discussion. And if you really have doubts and if you really want to learn, then it is always preferable that we keep our cameras on. And it is also a motivation to the speaker, right? The session is for 2 hours. And this is exclusively for ESS IA. So I understand we all have a lot of questions which pertain to the entire syllabus of ESS. But since the session is particularly for IA, I would request everybody to stick to the questions that are only related to the IA. A little bit of introduction regarding our keynote speaker, Ms. Pratibha. Ms. Pratibha has over 12 years of teaching experience in IB Environmental Systems and Societies and also MYP Biology. She's a team leader for ESS Internal Assessment and an IB examiner for paper 1 and 2. She has also served in various capacity in various IB schools in India, and she has led training sessions for teachers and students who are interested in environmental sciences and who wish to pursue higher studies in environmental science courses. She aims to create engaging learning experiences for her students by integrating subject expertise in environmental sciences and the best research-based educational strategies that promote student-centered, conceptually focused, and inquiry-based learning. In a nutshell, she brings the best teaching practices to the classroom, and we are all here to understand how to make it better for our students by learning from her experiences. Thank you so much for being here today, Ms. Pratibha. Over to you.
Thank you, Kalpana. Thank you so much. These are very kind and encouraging words. And in fact, there are certain things. Can you share? Have you enabled me to share the screen? Yeah, please. In fact, there are a few things that I wanted to share about the best aspects of my experiences so far. Having 14 years of teaching experiences, the learning something new is never ceased. I always explore new things. Kalpana, can I share?
Yes,
my screen?
Yes, ma'am. I have enabled you. Can you access it? Are you able to?
No, it says host disabled participant screen. And I say young learner. Hi, Mary, is that your son?
Ma'am, could you try now? I have.
Oh, yes, it's working.
Thank you.
All right, I hope everybody are able to see my screen. All right. Thank you, Kalpana. The second slide is about me. I just wanted to share this as well before I move on to the actual aspect of decoding. When I received the request from Guru about the ESSIA, and the title itself is so catchy and very fancy. And before I wanted to understand what exactly decoding is, I need to encode. What is it I'm going to speak about? And what is that? How do I convey the kind of messages about the ESSIA? So that allowed me to align the entire PPT, about 30 slides, is about the encoding, understanding what is the IB guide says about IA, what is the what do I understand about the IA, and what are my experiences, and that's the outcome of the next 2 hour session. And I'm really looking forward to learn from you as well. Despite number of years of teaching experiences and number of sessions that we attend in terms of IA or maybe paper or the workshops in IB, we still learn something new from every session. And it is like a mutually beneficial for both the parties, for me as well as for you as participants. So just to add on a little bit of it, just to highlight this Google Earth Pro, I wanted to use this slide. All right, I'm not going to reintroduce myself once again. Let me keep it aside. This is the Google Earth Pro that I have used it. It's a very important tool as a ESS teacher we all should have, all right? So Google Earth Pro is it's advanced thing. You can get a basic version, but the basic version doesn't give much of the applications. So currently where I am staying, it says in Bangalore. That's my mom's place. However, I stay, I'm settled in Hyderabad. This is my vacation, though I was born and brought up in Bangalore. I always come for my vacation to Bangalore. So this particular Google Earth Pro gives you the data about the past. How was the land use pattern? And what was the rate of deforestation? What about the built up area? And also can be used for identifying the sampling areas if the student has taken up certain field investigations, or maybe calculating noise levels at the different traffic junctions. So Google Earth Pro comes very handy. It is a student generated, and also the student will be in a position to highlight where and all the different sampling points the student has taken. So I would encourage strongly to all the teachers here, use Google Earth Pro, and you see the beauty of it. You will fall in love with it, how the things have changed over the years. All right. So, so what are we going to? How are we going to learn, and what are we going to learn? So this entire session is based upon these 6 themes, and these themes have come from the expectations that you all have filled in. Guru has generously shared the expectations. So what I did was that I categorized all of them. So there is an emerging themes, and these themes are based on the nature of ESS. Sorry, the nature. What is the nature of ESSIA? The methodologies and the requirements in terms of lab requirements, or maybe chemicals or infrastructure, and the criteria, and also the writing guidelines for students. How do we develop the PSOWs? That is practical scheme of work. Of course, it is not a mandate, but it's a best practice to keep a track of what and all the demonstrations or what are all the IAs that you wanted to give students, so that they are more equipped to produce a good quality IA. Similarly, for developing IAs, one of your expected, some of you have really wanted to know about how do we develop these IA skills? What are those skills? So what do we do with it? And then now differentiated instructions. What happens when we have large number of students in a cohort, and then you have some students who are very what you call bright and very good, and some students are slow learners having some sort of a learning disabilities. How about the feedback and the moderation that we have to offer for the students? So when it comes to student feedback and the moderation, or maybe how do we mark and send it to IB so that we are in a right track? So these are the things that we're going to discuss in today's session, right? Okay. Now, before I move on, there's a little bit of activity that I wanted to ask you everybody to take part in. So Kalpana, I have shared the Padlet link with you in the chat box. If you could post it in the chat box, it would be nice. So what the task is, let's self-assess. Where are we in terms of expertise level? So I have categorized 5 different aspects. Of course, we can have many number of aspects, but what I felt was, let's focus on few things. All right, you can add more. So when I want you to read each of those expectations. For example, how confident and what is my expertise level in terms of, oh, I know each and every criteria expectations. I know what is 5 to 6 level means. All right. So am I standing at 1 or 5 or 3 or 2? It's up to you. Whatever your current expertise or a confidence level in each of these criteria. Second thing, developing IAs. How confident am I in developing IAS skills with the students? How confident, what strategies I have given in the past about the feedback to students so that they produce a good quality work? What about my expertise level in terms of range of investigations? And how am I meeting the learner's needs? So what is your expertise and confidence level? If you have a notebook next to it, you can add up these numbers and type the actual number that you get and put it in the chat box, in the Padlet by adding the plus sign. Is that clear? So first you go to the Padlet and you can see all these expectations. So circle whichever where you stand, add up all the numbers and give that number. So out of 25, what is your number? Just you can write your name or you can just leave it blank, no problem. So put that number in the Padlet link. So is that clear? Thumbs up, it is clear.
Yes, it is clear, ma'am. I am unable to find the link. Could
Oh,
you
no
please
problem.
share it again?
Yeah, I will share right away.
Thank you.
There we go. It's up in the chat box. You keep this link open throughout. We will be visiting quite often. Maybe around 3 to 4 times. That's it. I see some of you have written 4. Maybe for all of that, for each of the statement, you add up all the points and then give me that number. There's no 0 though. Out of 25, what are your total points? The reason why I'm using this is, when students start, when you want to introduce these IAs, you should know where they stand. So you can use some of these exercises so that you know what exactly where they stand and what strategies that you can use to make sure they pick up. Kalpana?
Yes, ma'am.
So I can see everybody, wow. So somebody has mentioned 16, 17, that's a good score. 4, Sanjeevani, thank you. Is there anybody else yet to enter the number? Shall we wait for another 30 seconds?
Yeah, that would be good. Teachers, please use the Padlet link to help us understand. Thank you.
Okay, I can post this link once again if you're not able to get this on. Just a minute, once again, there we go. Wow. This student seems to be very, inquisitive. I would say I'm solid 15. IB training has prepared me pretty well, but I feel with additional time in class 2 with IAS will increase my confidence. Fantastic. Yeah. All right. So thank you so much for rating yourself in terms of confidence on each of these aspects. Let me share once again. Yeah, there we go. All right. This particular exercise allows us to understand where our students are, what strategies we need to do, and how much of amount of time that we need to spend so that the students are confident enough to produce IAs. So building from known knowledge to unknown. So taking them from known to unknown. All right. This is one of the ways in which the IB really appreciate in terms of its approaches to teaching. So in the following slides, I would also be discussing with you about what are those ATTs and ATLs that we can think of when we are developing these HL skills. So thank you so much. Please remember your number. All right, we will go back at the end of this and see how much confidence that we have gained after this session. All right. So the nature of ESSIA, what is it like? Of course, we all know it's a compulsory and which involves the completion of an individual investigation. What it means is, even though the student writes exams of paper 1 and paper 2, and a student fails to submit IA, he will not get a diploma. IA is very, very important. So that's the reason even the IB asks students to submit whatever the work that the student have have done so far. So that's the reason we need to start planning from the beginning, and then at the end, sometimes we keep everything at the end of the syllabus, for IAs. That should not be the case. So it is please bear in mind that we need to submit this individual investigation for every other student. Even if a student has not done, he can write one sentence, his name, that's it. He needs to submit his work. This shows the student accountability and also the academic integrity. Also, another thing, a catch here is about the double dipping. So what it means is that when a student does any EE work or maybe IA work in terms of ESS, make sure that they do not have the similar topics. All right. Of course, they can draw some inspiration from the CAT's work, but definitely not ESS and an IA topic should be a different, should not be the same, right? That please remember. The second aspect is why do we need this? It's an application of skills and knowledge, whatever they've learned in terms of theory, they need to write it down, they need to apply that in the real world. Sometimes some of these IAs the student pursue is of their personal interest. I've had students who are really, really passionate about their career choices. One of the students was interested in fashion designing, and she wanted to pursue about how people perceive fashion designing. What would be the implications of the fast fashion have on the environment? So some of the students are really interested to pursue based upon their personal interest. Please do encourage them. It's very, very important for us to make sure that these skills are developed to pursue their personal interest, and they will remember us forever because we have given them that kind of an opportunity. See, and also the teaching of the IAs, whether it is demonstrations or the developing skills or field work, all of that should be a normal day-to-day classroom teaching. It should not be it should not be at the end of the syllabus, all right? So it's very, very important for us to make sure that for each topic, we can map, okay, for this topic, I'm going to introduce this particular aspect of the IA or this particular method or methodology so that the students understand the practical application of those skills. And then when you give opportunity for students to pursue their internal investigation, they have enough skills and knowledge to build on the IA, and you will get a quality work. So it should be a normal classroom teaching, definitely not at the end of the syllabus. All right. So, and as all of you know that it is 10 hours and 25% the weight. So the 10 hours, including the individual IA, where the student submits, but you also have
I think it's the internet. Just give her a
10
second.
hours.
Yeah, I'll just. Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me? Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, Kalpana, I was kicked out, right?
No, there was you just stopped. I think it was the internet glitch.
Okay,
Internet.
how about now?
Yeah, yeah. You're audible. You're audible.
Okay,
You're clear.
where did I stop? Where did I kicked out? Where was I kicked out?
No, 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 no.
All
It's
right,
just
okay,
I think
fine.
internet issue. Yeah.
All right, fine, thank you. So guidance and authenticity. In my experience in the past, at least 2 years back, some of the IA work that I used to receive, students were not at all aware about the criteria. It's all messed up. Sometimes students used biology criteria, geography criteria. So the first thing that we need to give them is about, hey, this is the ESS IA criteria. Use these criteria when you're writing down your lab report, or when you're inquiring, or when you're proposing. It's very, very essential. Make it visible in the classroom. IB animal experimentation policy. Yes, we must have this, where students should be able to understand, are they experimenting with animals? Animal experimentation is no, all right? We have to give this kind of a document for students to refer back and forth as and when they produce some sort of a proposals. When you ask them to produce a proposal, they come up with all weird ideas. Of course, they're relevant, but then it is against the IB animal experimentation policy. So please refer to the IB guide for the IB experimentation policy. Make this also visible in your classroom. Academic honesty document. Of course, every school will have this academic honesty document. Ensure that the students are aware about it, sticking to the deadlines, and also the kind of a writing style, the citation, all of that will be a part of your academic honesty. So ensure that these documents are made available to students well in advance. So to be in safe side, before you start introducing, keep all these documents stacked, and then as and when is required, you release them to the students for their reference. Is the pace is fine, or am I going too fast?
It's good, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Next up, where is that? Yes, sorry. This is a second learning experience or a learning engagement. It's called as feel good factor. All right. So each and every one of us here have some sort of an experience in experimenting with new things, or we must have come across something very interesting on Facebook group, or maybe in WhatsApp group, or maybe in the newsletter, or maybe World Economic Forum, or a personal groups. Something that you felt, wow, it's a brilliant idea. I can introduce into my classroom, whether it can be an approaching environmental issue, or maybe an idea for the IA, or it can be a skill development for example, for formulating a research question, or analyzing the data, or plotting the graphs. All right. So, or maybe there is some sort of a feedback, very quick feedback, a strategy that you felt it's useful and you tried. And the learning management system. So how do you track students' investigation over a period of time? Do you have a learning management system, something that you keep a record of it? So maybe you have well-organized thing that you wanted to share with us. In the managed pack, there are new add-ons have been introduced. So have you explored that? Do you find something interesting? Or maybe an environment conscious living. For example, very recently you came across, hey, I'm using so much of resources, so I'm going to minimize my resources. Was there anything that you came across and you started adopting where you're living environment conscious? So this is a bit of exercise allow us to feel good about whatever I try something new, even if it is failed, doesn't matter. All right, we learn from that. So what is that one thing that you have tried and tested. All right, you just can write, and I have tried this particular strategy for this aspect. That's enough, one statement. If you want to give me an example, I just randomly I can give. And this is called as Rocket Book. Okay. Have you heard about this Rocket Book? Anybody? Okay. This is ebook. All right. So it has got 12 pages. You can download the app. All right. With this pen, you can write. You can write on both this e-paper as well as a normal paper. And as and when you're done with this, you can send it to your personal account, wherever folders that you have created. You can give a lot of tags. That's very, very interesting. And you can erase. All right. So take a wet cloth and you can erase. See? Erased. Very interesting. I really like, because I use a lot of notebooks, and I have a tendency to lose them also. So I found this e-notebook is really good, but I don't know what are its environmental implications. Maybe I can start evaluating its implications. But this is something I found very interesting. All right. So likewise, is there anything that any one of you have tested and tried any of the aspects? So you can take 5 minutes, you can write, you go to the same Padlet, it is learning experience or learning engagement 2, you can type your answer there. You can. Is that task clear? Mary, is the task clear? Thank you, because I can see only Mary, Kalpana, and Zaina. That's it.
Okay. All right. It's very clear, ma'am. It is very clear.
All right. Okay, let me stop sharing and wanted to see. Alka, you have said no. Is there anything you need an access or something? Padlet link or something? All right, no worries. Very nice. Case studies, yes. These are very, very interesting. I also started using these case studies to pick up some of the ideas to teach environmental issues. Recent environmental news, yes, that's wonderful. Links, topics, Google Classroom. Real time, yes, EduPuzzle videos. Yeah, you're right. So using videos in classroom was not very helpful. The students get bored. Yeah. Pandemic time, we killed them with a lot of videos. Yeah. Climate. Wow. Climate action simulation. Yes, strategy. Whoever has written on ESS strategy, a lengthy post, fantastic. You feel good about it. Even if you did a small thing and you did the job the right way, you feel good. Thank you for posting environmental issues. Yeah. COPS 26, yes. Wow, very interesting to know about the balloon debate. Okay, maybe I can ask 2 volunteers to share something. Maybe I'm quite interested with the balloon debate.
Hi, ma'am. So that was me.
Oh, Kalpana, yes, go ahead,
Yeah.
Kalpana.
So after this, after the COP26, we allotted each student, not I gave them the opportunity to choose the country they want to represent. One student chose China, and so they were representatives of those countries. And there was Sir David Attenborough also. So the idea was to help them understand what each country has promised for climate change, to fight for. What are the things that they have promised, and what are the things that they have not lived up to? What are the things they have lived up to? What has the impact been overall? Like we also shared the Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley's speech. It was really an invigorating speech. So all of those things. And then this balloon debate was conducted to help them understand, if you are a world leader, and if you really need to lead the world to curb the climate change, who all will you carry with you, and who all will you push out?
Yeah.
That's the idea. That's the idea of a balloon debate. So if there are 10 countries, for example, there are only 4 that you can save. Which are the 4 best countries in terms of their resolutions and what they have actually lived up to?
Okay.
Choose them. So
yeah. It's like an ethical dilemma.
Yeah. The dilemma was the point, because it's always gray. There's no black and white. Okay. So there came a point where an MEDC was literally pointing fingers at an LEDC, and then the LEDC was pointing fingers back. And so it was, and the director participated and the head of school was present. So it was the discussion was to bring to the platform the gray areas in the summit.
Yeah, that's good.
So
thank you, Kalpana, for sharing. Okay, is there anybody else who wants to share anything that you found, you tested and tried, and you feel good about it? Okay, for one, it's okay. Let's move on to the next slide.
I think someone raised their hand.
Oh yeah, Marcelo. I'm sorry, I can't see them. I can only see a few things.
Yes. Hello and good afternoon. Where I am is good morning because I'm in Brazil. So pleased to meet you all. I wrote about the ESS IA strategies, the green balloon, the green bubble there on Padlet. Just to share like a strategy that I used, that I found my students gave me good feedback on it. So I kind of separated, like I was saying in the Padlet, right? I separated. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I separated each and every section or criteria from A until E. They were separated in sections that the students had a given time to complete each section. And they had prompts, because I know what is expected of them in each and every section. They had to fill these prompts, and after they finished, it's like an assignment. It's like 5 different assignments that they have to fill. Of course, section C, which is results analysis and conclusion, naturally is the one that I gave them more time to do it. But by doing so in a compartmented way, in a separated manner, and not everything together. Okay, so now you're going to write your IA. You've done your field research, or you've done your secondary research. Now you're going to write the entire IA. And I felt that was not working. So instead of doing that, doing this compartmented strategy, I felt it was something that really helped them, and they really gave me good feedback as compared to other subjects in my school, in our school, that did the all-together approach. So I wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really an interesting and also very useful exercise that we can do with the students. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So moving on, moving on, the method and methodologies. Method, what kind of tools And then how do we interpret the data that we get? What methodologies that we use? Of course, IB Guide gives you all of these ideas, all right? But there are 4 broad approaches to ESS IA. In sciences, like any other sciences like physics, chemistry, or biology, they have one approach, that is experiments in the lab. Whereas ESS is so beautiful that they have so many opportunities. You have your surveys, you have the lab work, field experiences, and secondary data. Even for individual societies, they have field work and the surveys, but the ESS also has a benefit of science experiments. That's the beauty. These are the 4 broad approaches. When we use these 4 approaches, there are different methods and experiments or methodologies that we can bring in with respect to the suitable research question. So we know that the values and attitude surveys and questionnaires, we can use it. We can start off in the first unit. So we can use some of the simple, like, an exercise with the students to understand where do they stand in terms of their value systems. Are they anthropocentric, technocentric, ecocentric? Formulating 1 or 2 simple questions is enough for them to understand, oh, this is how we formulate a research question, and these are the sample survey questions that we can use it. All right. So similarly, of course, we have interviews. Interviews cannot be a standalone IAs for purpose. We can use interviews just to back up some of the data that we gathered for your IA. Of course, interviews are mostly explicitly used in the excellent essay, but for the individuals and society, for the ESS IA, we can use these interviews to back up with the kind of a data we have gathered. So issue-based inquiries inform decision-making, like how many of them are willing to shift towards Rocketbook? How many of them are willing to shift towards vegan diet? So decision-making. So these are the ways in which we can use the natural experiments, observational field work, manipulation of field experiments, for example, growing some crops in the actual field, ecosystem modeling, like including mesocosms and bottle experiments. And these should be able to provide enough data for the students to generate a quality work. Sometimes the mesocosms or bottle experiments may fail. They will not get any kind of a data. That should be discouraged. That can be just a demo purpose. Laboratory works, lab experiments. One of the famous lab experiment is acid rain experiment. Many of the students, they feel it is so easy and they do it. We can go beyond those experiments. When we talk to the biology teachers or chemistry teachers and physics teachers, we can get a lot of ideas. I will also share with you one of the mapping, what kind of a typical topic, or what kind of a topic, what kind of an experiments or demonstrations and IAs can align with each of the topics. I'll show you the document as well for your reference. Then you can use system diagrams. It cannot be a whole IA, but it can be a part of the IA when you're introducing the topic, or maybe it can be a part of the solution or the application as application. Environmental impact assessment. I have not come across environmental impact assessment IA, either explicit or implicit, in my experience for all these years with so many markings I've done. So this can be a demo kind of a thing and a PSOW kind of a thing for you to show them how do we assess the impact of developmental projects that have on the environment, society, and economy. So this can be just a simple demo kind of a thing we can ask students to do it. Secondary demographic environmental data and collection of both qualitative and quantitative. Of course, we can collect qualitative data, provided it is really going to be useful for answering the research question, all right? Not necessarily you should have a qualitative data. So these are the different methods and methodologies that we can use for the IA for the broad 4 approaches. Coming to some of the things in the past just couple of years, what I have done is not just only for the IA, just for the purpose of developing this the practical scheme of work, giving some sort of a experiential learning and hands-off experience. These are the different field activities or strategies that I've used. So captive breeding center, when we go to the zoological park, every city will have one or two national parks or the zoological park. So we can visit there and see what is the design criteria like. And how about the captive breeding centers? Who are those people who are feeding them? Are they qualified? Are they vets? Or how is their environment like? What is the success rate of reintroduction of these captive breeding animals? Students can have an interaction with the department officials, and also that becomes they would understand the practical as well as the theory part. The second thing, our campus, the school where I'm working currently in Hyderabad, is a huge campus. It's a 100 acres campus, natural setting. So this was a line transact demo. It was during the when we reopened, we resumed in the month of January. It was a line transact. So it was very difficult for us to do all these activities online. So this was a very recent one, a line transacted demo. Then the next one is about the ants. It was popular in 10 years ago, the ant diversity, right? So this was something where we can use the population of ants, the diversity of ants. So we can use certain ecological investigations to explore. The next one is vertical garden. We visited the vertical garden, a farm visit. Students came back and they wanted to test and try with the different plants and without addition of the inorganic fertilizers. The second one, hydroponics demo. So how can we grow food using hydroponics? Soilless, this one, but this is kind of an experience for them to understand, oh, this is how we can also grow food, but how far it is effective. Well, this microgreen, I've attended one of the workshop for starting from the selection of the seeds for microgreens to marketing. Very interesting. So what I felt was, okay, why can't I just try with the substrate? How do we, what is the effect of substrates on the germination of these microgreens and its length? So use different substrates. This was again a kind of a demo during the pandemic time. If students are really interested, they can do back at home, so they can produce a good quality IA report. The other one is mushroom. This was just my visit to the mushroom farm, and I felt it was very interesting, and they can just to get an inspiration how we can grow mushrooms. It's also what do we do with the spent mushroom after the harvest? What is left out is called a spent mushroom. So what do we do with that spent mushroom? We can collect a lot of research. Okay. The next one is there was many of the organizations. For example, we tied up with the WWF, so they have census. They do conduct a lot of field work. So they have a field expertise. So what we have done is we have tied up with them and we went to see to do the survey for dragonfly and damselfly survey in the urban lakes. So students also get to know how do they sample and how do they count and what do they do with the data, how do they interpret the data. So they also get an experience of identifying the species and also understand what are the ethical considerations. The other one here you have, this is called as Right to Bazaar. Each and every city will have some, especially in India, you have a farmer's market very close by. It's a walkable distance. You can go there and calculate the food mile. Where are these vegetables are grown? How long it has traveled? All right. And also you will have lots of visitors coming. I mean, just give me a minute. Let me turn on the lights. Yes. So a lot of the customers do come. What is the behavior of these customers? Do they carry plastic bags? Why do they carry? Some may not carry. So when we allow students to stand there and observe, they can formulate a research question. People who are economically well off, this is their behavior, who are having a better education, who have a better environmental awareness, they have such behavior. So they can hypothesize and test their hypothesis by formulating different research questions. So this is the place where you have so many people in one place that can come within the vicinity. You can do a fantastic survey. And the second one is vermicompost. So what I do is most of the time, I do explore a lot of things. This is the leachate coming from the vermicompost. The person who is in charge of this vermicompost has not done anything with the leachate. So I collected the leachate and then brought it back to the academy and wanted to analyze its nutrients, NPK. Also wanted to test and try on the plants, the foliar application as well as root application. So you can do a lot of work within our own reach. We need not to have a fancy or a very high-fi or a sophisticated infrastructure for ESS, right? So this is last one, the plant identifier. I don't know how many of you are aware about the apps. So you have, if you have an Android phone, you do have apps, like you have a very variety of plant identifiers. You can, or image this, okay? Apple phone has image this. You can use plant identifier and check if you don't know the plant, you don't have the booklet, plant local plants booklet, you can use this to identify plants. Then you have, oh, this one, the closed ecosystem model. I must say this was one of the successful things, the closed ecosystem model, since last 14 years. Trust me. I don't know how it worked well. It was really good. When students, I just assigned 5 students to do this modeling. They did a little bit of research to have a different substrates, different layers. They used only 3 plants. One is aloe vera, grass, and they found almond sapling. They just dropped it and added 2 liters of water. That's it. For next 2 months, they didn't even water. It was completely sealed. You have to see the exuberant growth. You can see the roots very clear. And students were really got enthused into, wow, that's really interesting. This is how the closed system works. Similarly, aquascaping. This was my during my pandemic time. I set up this aquascaping and I used this to show them the interaction and what happens if I stop feeding them. In fact, I didn't realize that there were some snails, baby snails were started growing. They were eating upon the debris. Some of the plants were started decaying. I stopped feeding, and these fish used to eat upon those debris, the decaying leaves, and also the young leaves. So they were able to self-sustain, and this is how it's a self-sustained ecosystem. So these are the different ways, but then I would suggest you guys to have one closed ecosystem. You will really see how well these plants thrive if you provide them right amount of the abiotic factors. You need not to open, once it is sealed, you can seal with the plastic cover. You should not open it at all. They do a fantastic job. You can see how the water condenses, falls back. It's beautiful. So yeah, any questions? If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box. I'll come back. Maybe I can pause for a while. So take your questions. Kalpana, is it okay if I pause here and take the questions?
Yes, please, ma'am. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Because I am blabbering a lot. Yes, Christine.
Hello. I was really grateful just now hearing all of those hands-on activities and ideas and inspiration. Especially interested in the mesocosms and the closed ecosystem projects. I've done that with students before also as that topic 1 introduction to systems, but I do have students wanting to turn it into an IA because they were fascinated by it and they loved doing them. But I'm just wondering, because of the need to keep everything sealed, what types of data do students have access to collecting quantitative data as the ecosystem model or the mesocosm is sealed? That's where I've struggled leading them to how to turn that into an IA. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, for IA, it would be very, very difficult because it takes a long time to for them to grow and for them to respond. All right. So if the student starts off in the beginning, then it is fine. But sometimes due to the vacation, we don't take care of them. We need to know what's happening. There's nobody else to measure. If you change one abiotic factor, what would happen to the biotic factors eventually? So it's a long process. So depending upon what type of a model ecosystem that you have. In my experience, model ecosystems are just for us to get an idea on how we can use that idea in the either for extension of those ideas. But definitely we cannot, we find it very, very difficult to collect sufficient data because it is long time and it has a tendency to fail. All right. And also observation of behavior and everything, it is really, really time consuming. So it can, you can tell your students that, yes, you can go for this, but how are you going to maintain this for a longer period? What is the data that you're going to collect? So are you going to collect, say, for example, you have a snail on a terrestrial ecosystem, or maybe aquatic ecosystem, you have left these snails, number of snails. You wanted to assess the population growth eventually. So what are you going to change? Are you going to change the amount of food? Of course, you cannot make them to starve to death. All right, that's again another the the experimentation policy, animal experimentation policy. So you should be very, very careful. Plants, of course, plants. If you wanted to see, if you change the light amount of light entering into the model, how are you going to quantify it? The moment you open it, obviously you're exposing them to get evaporated the amount of water that you have, right? So it would be very difficult for them to maintain this kind of the IEA for a longer duration. So you have to start off at the beginning. Maybe if there is anybody who have done an experiment on the modeling of an ecosystem, that should be really great if they could share. So far, in my experience, I did not I didn't come across anything that is very useful for the model ecosystem for the IEA purpose, especially the mesocosms.
Yeah, I also just when I introduced it, had students trying to measure, for example, plant growth over a few weeks, just because the containers were transparent. And so plant height in centimeter or millimeters, but that's also really hard to be clear about through the container. So besides plant height, we didn't come up with anything else. But thank you for your thoughts.
Yeah. Julian, you raised your hand.
Hi, yeah, I was trying to type it out whilst it's more of a like a how to say, like a practical type or housekeeping type question. It's because you mentioned like the 10 hours time devoted to this. Do these sorts of activities fall under that, or are they sort of like extra types of things you can do to get students thinking, kids thinking about how they can approach sorts of things? Thanks.
This 10 hours is starting off with the proposal, getting a feedback, collecting the data, and so on and so forth. So when you are developing these skills, it should be part of your teaching and learning process. Say, for example, you are teaching closed ecosystem, automatically you have this. And how do you collect the data, right? So that's why they have not specified about the practical teaching. You know, there's only 10 hours of individual investigation. The 10 hours encompasses the proposal, the feedback, the student conducting an experiment, collecting the data, and also analysis and evaluation, all of that, producing a report.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Let's move on to the thing. You know, many a times the ESS lab is so very much such a beautiful it is. You don't require a highly sophisticated infrastructure and expensive instruments, how they use it in biology, physics, or chemistry. All right. So we can make use of whatever available in and around us. And we can also go and ask some of these biology physics teachers what kind of an experiments you have. Maybe when you get an intern, if you are in a science group, your HOD will be sent out, oh, what are your lab requirements? If you see those physics, chemistry, and biology lab requirements, that's more than enough. You can just increase the quantity. That's it. All right. So basically, almost all the labs will have basic safety equipment as per the standard protocol. Each and every one of our schools will have this, like lab coats, glassware, the seating arrangement, and then if there is any accident, there is a fire extinguisher, eye wash, shower, all of those will be available. That's a safety protocol and any IB school will have. So along with that, we also can have data loggers. Very easy. You need not to do the titration values. Titration values takes a lot of time. So we have a very simple digital loggers, data loggers. We can buy data loggers for various parameters. We can buy even for the TDS too. We can have our pH, DO, electrical conductivity, TDS, and so on and so forth. You can ask for more data logger sensors. Even they have for noise level sensors too, right? And also when it comes to INS department, they do have some basic equipments of weather carrying out the weather patterns. It can be a temperature, humidity, pressure. You can use those equipments. We don't require to specifically buy these and keep it in the ESS labs. We can share those resources. Then there are certain apps in the Android phones where you can use noise levels, temperature, and as I mentioned about the plant and animal identifier, wow, fantastic, then test and try. But make sure if you know one plant, very particularly, you know what is the plant common name and the botanical name, you test and try if the app you're using is really reliable or not, okay? Sweep nets and quadrats, until unless you have a very nice ecological investigations, you can buy sweep nets or you can make sweep nets. They are very easy to make. Quadrats, they are also very easy to make. You don't require to, you need not to buy them. You can use PVC pipes to make quadrats. They're inexpensive. Soil testing kits. Okay, soil testing kits are quite famous, but make sure that they are giving you numbers. Sometimes they give you qualitative, red, green, orange. That's a 3 quantitative. So if you get a digital number, a number that you can define it, you can note it down, go for the soil testing kits. The water testing kits, culture media, biology students do a lot of bacterial culture. We can use this culture media for analyzing what type of soil microorganisms or the bacteria present in different types of soil. You can identify in the water or different ecosystems. You can use this culture media. Circuits, in physics labs, you get circuits and solar panels and chemicals that you can use. Maximum 5 to 6 chemicals that we use in ESS lab, not more than that. Okay. So if you get local plant, bird, animal identification book, because every country or every local place will have an organization where they have done a lot of research about the local flora and fauna. So if you get those booklets, please keep that as a ready reckoner. You can use them whenever you wanted to use them for a plant identification. Gardening equipments, very interesting. Many of the students love to work with the plants. All right. So biology students also do a lot of gardening experiments related to plants. So you can use, but you can keep a stock of pots, seeds, and seeds. Please do collect seeds from a certified seed manufacturer or the distributor. And you can also get local seeds, which are, they're organic in nature, I guess, provided they're organic, but you please clarify what type of seeds they are selling. Fertilizers, don't keep a stock of fertilizers, buy fresh because they get durated over the time. Soil, yes, very important. It's like it's a treasure, it's a gold. So try to collect different types of soils that you can find in and around. So keep a stock of it so that the students can use what is the impact of so and so thing on different types of soil. So then also seedling trays, a small seedling trays you can get. It would be very easy to maintain. So these are the basic things that you can keep in your labs. Similarly, we had a handheld device. So if you have a very sophisticated biology lab, they must be having a refractor. They can assess the sugar content. So you can test the sugar content of different varieties of fruits. That's also another IA. All right. And then another very simple handheld, another device that I have. Of course, it is at home. I don't take it to school, but I'm just showing you. This is another very simple one. It is, oh, sorry. So it is a distance. So it can calculate accurately the distance between an object and whatever the distance that you wanted to measure, you get this. This is not necessary. If you have at home, you can use it. Otherwise, not a necessary one. All right. And we also have a colorimeter that we can see the absorbance of chlorophyll. So we can see what is the impact of pH or maybe the soil type or the amount of chlorophyll content in a type of a plant. So you can use the colorimeter. And we also have a dissection microscope. And any biology labs will have a dissection microscope and also the light microscope. We can use it. And finally, the simulation lab platforms. There are various simulation platforms. Of course, we don't use simulations for IAS. It's just for giving students an exposure of how do you manipulate those ideas and how do you generate the data. But definitely, we don't use simulation lab for IAS. These are all an experiences that we can give for students. Right? Okay. Is that fine? Is that the pace is fine? Kalpana?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Okay. Yes, it is good.
Now, coming to the big chunk, how do we make sense of the IA criteria? All right. So, if you notice some of the images that I've used throughout is my personal connection, and some of the artworks that you see here is my niece work. Okay. So I asked her, how do you interpret this particular, what do you call, 5 to 6 band? So I gave her idea, so she did this. So the credit goes to her. So I just wanted to tell you about why I use this picture. Sometimes some of the students might not understand or they're not this learning style of reading and understanding. They love pictures, visual pictures. So if I unpack this using this picture, it's very easy for them. They can make sense. All right. So what I'm going to do with this criteria, I'm going to take you through what is that criteria is expected to reach into how many 5 to 6 band, what it should have. All right. This particular thing is called as context. It has got 3 aspects. First aspect is about the research question. Second one is about the environmental issues. And the third thing is about the connection between EI and RQ. Recently, when I marked almost all these, marked the IAs, almost all the students were able to do a pretty good job. Not a great job, but they were able to do a pretty good job. All right. So it takes a lot of time for our students to make them understand how do you formulate a research question. Trust me, my experience with the IA, I find the research question or maybe the context and the planning, if these 2 are set, the rest of the IA becomes fabulous. It will be like a cakewalk for you. So make sure the first one, the context and the planning is proper. In the context, the first thing is about the environmental issue. There must be umpteen number of environmental issues. Like each and every topic has environmental issue. Just writing down water pollution is an environmental issue, but it is too broad. All right. If a student goes a little deeper, what is that issue that he is finding it very interesting in his local context, like sewage discharge into the water bodies, high VOD content, eutrophication in the lakes, in the urban lakes. So if he is able to identify that environmental issue, all right, what is happening there? Why is it happening? Who is responsible for it? For that, he needs to do a little bit of research. When he does a little bit of research, he will be able to understand, okay, this is happening because of this reason. All right. So where is the evidence that this particular lake is eutrophicated? Or where is the evidence that the people are not really, sometimes students make a very bold statements. People are not worried about it. Where is the evidence that the people are not worried about it? Has the government taken any steps? Has the government has not done anything yet? Is there any concern that anybody has raised? For that purpose, you ask your students to do a little bit of research. They can use EBSCO or Google Scholar to access to those local research papers. When they access to research papers, they get a very good evidence-based findings, not simply just Google search and find out some blog. So encourage your students to do a Google Scholar or maybe EBSCO. EBSCO is another app where the schools will be enrolled for it, and you will be getting a lot of the research papers, you know. Also ResearchGate, Nature. There are we can access for free, you know, you need not to pay anything. So the more students explore these, they will be able to do a good job. In my research, for my research, what I'm currently pursuing, the green nanotechnology, there's so much of research is available, all right? So when we give them some, how do we research? So when they start researching, they will realize, okay, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to test and try in my local area. It will be very easy for them, all right? And then formulating a research question. So formulating a research question is not a tricky job. It's quite easy, but it requires a lot of practice. If you give them an idea, if you give them, show them the modeling, work with them, they will do a fantastic RQ, right? Connections between the EI and RQ. This is again very important. How is it connected with the EI and RQ? This doesn't require much of the explanation. How is it connecting? If pH is increasing in the soil, why is it plant is not responding properly? What is happening? What is the biology behind it? What is the physiology behind it? Why do people, the gender, some females are more environmentally conscious than the others? Why? Where is the evidence? So if they mention these resources, it would be very easy for them to get into 5 to 6 mark band. All right. So this is the what do you call the context. So you have wide range of environmental issues, but you have to choose only one. Sometimes I have seen students choose one thing, acid rain, they move on to eutrophication, right? So discourage that. Deforestation, and they move on to acid rain. So make sure they stick to one environmental issue. It will be very easy. They can get a very good score, right? So target only one, and research question and the environment issues linking. So when you use such kind of diagrammatic representations, even the slow learners or visual learners, they pick it up quickly. Okay. This is somewhere I picked it up. I'm not sure where I picked it up. Yeah, this is a very easy one where you can use the slides to share it with the students what it means to be formulating a research question. All right. A general topic area from the course, that is your environmental issue. For any topic, you can explore which one is the environmental issue. It can be global warming, or it can be a climate change. So, or maybe ozone depletion. Sorry, not ozone depletion. The photochemical smog, air pollution. So these things you can choose one, and then what is the approach? All right. So, are you going to conduct a lab? Conduct a field work, or is it a secondary research or a survey? That is called as focused. A focused question allows a reader or anybody, oh, this is the field work. It should directly, you should give a hint for the person it is a field work, or is it a survey. Then when you formulate a research question, make sure that you link the EI, your variables, and the focus. Then it becomes coherent, focused research question. Directly, your student will get into 5 to 6 mark band. All right. So if you see in this one, all right, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So think about what could be your the good RQ and why it is a good RQ. So you have 5. Think about it. You can unmute yourself and answer this. Anybody?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah.
It is option B, because it has clearly stated the independent and dependent variable and also where it is happening.
Thank you so much. Marcelo? Same one? Okay. Yes, you're right. So all of this are very broad. And look at this C1. How does sleeping pattern affect the performance of the students studying in DPSS? It's not at all connected, it's a psychology. But this time, I have received a script which is about spending time in the nature and their state and their heart rate. Yeah, somewhere it is connected. If the student has done really good job, it would have lead to a highest level of achievement. But that can be connected, the spending more time in the nature and their health, the well-being. Whenever we are connecting with the humans, please make sure that you have to connect with the environment. Deforestation. So if there is no forest, what would happen to the animals? So not necessarily that always you have to connecting with the animals. Your focus should be on the environment, not just the humans. The moment you write the human impact on humans, for example, the air pollution on the human beings, and you're only focusing on respiratory diseases, there will be a higher chances of losing marks. All right. So yeah. Now this one, how is the biodiversity affected by the tourism? So now this one is it's a very broad one. I don't want to waste much of the time on this. If you look into this, it is too broad and cannot be answered within 2000 to 250 words. When you're guiding your students, please ask them, will you be able to write within 2000 to 250? Where is your focus? Where is your relevance? And when are you going to do? Where are you going to do? So there are not much details, right? So we have to narrow it down. And when you narrow it down, when you include all those criteria in formulating a research question, it can sound like this, or maybe something that you can come up with which is very, very clear, focused, relevant research question. All right. So you can use these questions next time when you wanted to teach students about the research question. You can use your previous students' work. Always you can use your previous work, students. Hey, you know what? This is the research question. Do you see any problem with this? All right. Can you improve upon this? So you can use those ideas with students. Yes, Archana.
Hi, good evening. So Pratibha, this is Archana. Sorry for not turning on my video. I have some lagging issue. I cannot hear if I start my video.
No problem.
I was just asking you one question about one of the student creating an archive. It's just very raw. It's just the initial, I think, the raw idea which came about the impact of the change in abortion laws in a specific country and how it is impacting on the population dynamics. So how do I guide the student to make it more focused or relevant as in terms of ESS?
Okay, so what would happen if there is an increasing in population? What are the impacts of it? So you can connect that with the environmental issues.
Okay.
So resource depletion. All right. So you wanted to reduce the impact of resource depletion, and eventually then you have you wanted to investigate. So what happens? How are people perceiving about the abortion? So do they really accept, or what are their attitudes towards it? So or maybe you're using the secondary data, they can see the correlation between the abortion rate and also the recovery of resources or environmental index. So you can see that. So whenever you are trying to, because this is relevant, but you have to make sure somewhere you have to indicate this is the impact it will have on the environment. All right.
Sure. So it could be in terms of resources. We can connect it with resources.
Exactly. And then you give them some backup. How much of resource depletion has happened in the past because of the increasing in population?
Okay.
All right. And if you're choosing these particular countries, then you have to be it has to be backed up with the research findings. Right.
Sure. Definitely. Yeah. Thank you, Pratibha.
Yes, Kalpana.
Just a quick one. So what according to you is the relevance of using secondary data? Relevance in the sense, which is better to state, just to state it bluntly, which is better, primary or secondary? Because I know in biology, they always, I'm sorry, in biology, they always say primary data is something that fetches you better marks, right? So how is it in ESS? I haven't taught it before pandemic. So during the pandemic, there was an acceptable limit. Okay, IB was like, oh, it's all right. But after now that, we are opening up, what do you think is a better approach, ma'am?
All right. Almost all the 4 approaches are complex. And almost, if you don't pay much attention to any of the aspects of it, you have a tendency to lose. Secondary data is not easy. You have to get the data from the internet based upon your research question. So when some students know, Miss, I want to do secondary data, it's easy. No, I would ask them, I'll give them 1 week's time. Based upon your research question, you collect all the data. And your data should not just from the one source. You have to collect from multiple sources to check the validity and reliability. All right. So then only the student will be achieving 5 to 6 level band. So sufficient amount of data with respect to the research question the student has formulated. If the student gets the data, I'm telling you, it will be damn easy for you to change your RQ2. There is enough data, but do you have a right eye for it? Do you know how to analyze? Do you know how to catch the data? That's very, very important. We need to teach how to collect the data from the secondary sources. We've been using Gapminder and then World Bank data, many more websites. So how do we choose the data? What data is available? If you choose for 1 year, some countries will not have any data. All right, it's very tricky. So Kalpana, it has nothing to do with the fetching marks. In fact, the lab work is simpler. For low achievers, you can use the lab work. All right. So secondary data, students who are really keen in technology or who has very good research, who can find a good amount of data, they will do a fantastic job. Some students are very good at analyzing the data. They collect the data very precisely. So you can guide those students based upon their interest. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Grace.
Yes, ma'am. This is actually a continuation of, just to try to understand a little more about what Archana has asked. It's the number of abortions and the human population rate. In that, you rightly mentioned that the resource depletion, something should be there in the RQ. So it's like how, how is it actually, how one can actually formulate that kind of RQ? I'm just trying to understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one you can use as a secondary data. What is the correlation between the abortion rate with the environmental index? All right.
Okay.
For these particular countries, or what is the correlation between these 2 aspects in developing and developed countries, or in one particular community, or in one particular continent? So you can see the correlation coefficient. Maybe you may guess maybe it's a negative correlation. It's okay. But when the student comes up with secondary data, please ask him, I want the data. Once you go and get the data, then I can approve. Otherwise, they're wasting your time as well as their time. They think that they get the data. No, definitely not. It is not something that they can automatically, with the magic, they get this data. All right. So what data is available? Based upon, they can start generating many ideas. So tell your students to get the data. And then you can formulate a research question. And then you can proceed further. It should be sufficient, good data points you can have. Yes, Archana.
Sorry, Pratibha, I missed your couple of sentences on how to frame the RQ. So I also wanted to know if you could please specify on environmental index what you are talking about.
Yeah, so you have environmental index. If you go to Gapminder, it defines based upon certain parameters. So what is the level of environmental index which each country has shown from the last couple of years? It can, if you just type in Google search environmental index, you can get the data also. So how far, is there any correlation between the environmental index and the abortion rate for the last so and so years between developing and developed countries? Yep.
Okay,
So
got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Focused?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now planning. I think I'll just rush quickly. Planning. These two I'm telling you, the first one and the second one, planning. Very, very important. Even if the students are able to use simple language, go for it. Ask students not to use fancy and jargon and then pick up from somewhere and paste it there. Don't encourage such things. Change. I mean, let it be simple, easy to follow. If anybody follows, reads this, they should be able to follow. That's what the planning is. Whenever they plan, there are three things again. First one, do they have repeatable? Is it repeatable? That means if anybody use the same methodology somewhere, changing the context, can they follow it? That's what repeatability is. Do they have sufficient data? You know, the sufficient data varies from one approach to the other approach. For a standard lab-based reports, we can have 5 repeats, right? 5 trials and 5 increments. Like for example, pH, the acid rain pH is 4.3. 2 from 4.2, 4.1, and from 4.3 to 4.4, 4.5, or maybe with a range. So you should have the range or increments of that IV. All right. And for the fieldwork comparing areas, you can have 5 samples into 2 areas because you're comparing. Say, for example, one is accessed, one is not accessed. All right. So you can compare between 2. But you should have 5+ samples in different areas. You need to collect samples because we have to collect enough data to make sense of it. In order to get the statistical data, we need to have these amount of data. And for survey and secondary data, we require 20 to 30 data points. I always ask students to take at least 50 surveys. They come up with at least finally 30. If I ask them 20, 30, they end up giving us only 10. So always tell your students to get 50. If your students are very genuine enough, right? If they stick to what they spoke, you can do that. But I always ask my students to get 50 because certain times we may not be able to get the amount of number of responses. So it's always good that we target higher number and get whatever is possible. And we can use that in the evaluation. We can mention that in evaluation, what was the challenge that we have faced in terms of collecting the data, right? So this is the sufficient data. When it comes to risk assessment, many of the students in the past, at least till last year, they would skip the risk assessment. Automatically, their level of achievement will shift from 5, 6 to 3 and 4 automatically. So make sure that your students just mention what are the risks and ethical consideration based upon the experiment. All right. If it is experiment in the field work, what IP animal experimentation policy? How well are they able to take care of the environment? Are they using any animals? No animal policy. And then once they do with the experiment, what are they going to do with the waste? How are they going to dispose? Are they responsibly disposed? Or do they have any segregation or just randomly they dispose of? So encourage your students, what is the correct way of disposal of the waste they generated at the end of the experiment? It can be in soil or it can be any other experiments they would do. And also while you're handling, you should be very sensitive about certain questions and also you should take consent. So these are the things that students can mention very clearly. It is not a justification, it is just a description. They have to describe. We are taking the consent from the respondent and and the questions are made which are made in such a way that they are not any bias or discrimination or it's good enough where anybody can attempt these questions. And also the complexity of the questions. Some people may not understand the language. For example, English may not be local language. It must be something else. So are you providing any other local language translation in the form of a worksheet so that they can answer, and not to use heavy jargon? The statement should be clear and easy to be followed. And sometimes in the past, there's also recommended that students can, because secondary data came into picture, it takes a lot of time for students to collect the data. So what about their running a computer for longer time, all right, and printing paper for surveys? Ever since the pandemic, the last time the pandemic started, mostly it was online. One bold statement: there was no paper usage because it was online. Right? It's okay to mention. All right, it's better to mention than leaving it blank. So ergonomics, how you're seating, that's also another risk. The more time you spend sitting, it leads to a lot of problems. So how are you going to manage with that? So these are the ways you can ask your students to mention about the risk assessment. So justification, why am I choosing this particular strategy, sampling strategy over the other? Why am I using this particular population, or why am I using these type of questions? So these are your justification of the questions or justification of the sampling. Even if you write few sentences, but you're justified, students will be in a position to achieve 5 to 6 mark band. All right. So sufficient data, we have to justify the method and risks and ethical consideration. All right. So taking a consent. So these are the ways you can also tell students about this. This is how you can visualize what exactly the planning is. So it would be easier for them. Yeah. Okay. RAC is collecting the raw data. As I mentioned, you need to collect the raw data. It should be a part of the main body. Never ever put it into the appendix. No appendix. Raw data has to be there. By default, tell your students, even if it is a lengthy thing, it's okay. Let them put the raw data. All right. And your raw data has to be in line with the method. What did you follow? The steps that you mentioned, based upon that, you should collect the relevant data. Sometimes some students will be collecting some irrelevant data. Ask your students not to mention any irrelevant data. When there is of no use, ask them to remove it. In the research question, they are mentioning about the pH, but in the data collection, they also mention about the BOD, COD. No, they'll be penalized for that. So ask them to remove this because it's not part of a research question. It is not a part of your your planning. Why did you use it? Right? So quantitative observations and qualitative observations. You can have a qualitative observations provided it can answer your research question, right? Maybe the plant's changing its color, or maybe some respondents have not answered properly. So those qualitative observations, you can make a note of it, and it will be useful for analysis or for the DBB aspect. When it comes to analysis, many of us will find it very difficult. Oh man, there's a lot of statistical tools, and what pie charts, line graphs. What do I do? Best thing, simple. You take the data, your research question, maths teacher. Got a maths teacher. Hey, this is what it is. So what is the statistical analysis, or maybe the graph you should be using? And almost all the students must have learned about the statistical tools. If they're not, you ask your the maths teacher, maybe to take one session, you give them a data, one survey data, one plant data, one fieldwork data. Ask them, so how do you make sense of this? How do you analyze this? How do you draw graphs? It's a fantastic collaboration tool. That's the ideal way, right? And you also feel confident, and you also know, you also pick up some of the mathematical skills. That's what I suggest to get in touch with the maths teachers. Okay? And finally, the conclusion. When we're concluding, we forget about the research question. Many times students forget about the research question. They just draw one simple statement. Go back to the research question. As and when the student is proceeding, he has to refer back to the research question. That's what coherency is, logical. So when student goes back to the research question, hey, I wanted to check the impact of this. I want to check the correlation between abortion and the environmental index. So, okay, so I see that based upon the statistical analysis, I don't see any trend. I see it is not, or maybe it is not supporting. All right. So what am I answering? Is it a negative or a positive? All right. And interpretation of the data. What is it happening? What are the ask your students to use those values they got, the average values or our statistical test values. What does those signify? What is that number is talking about? Numbers are not just numbers. They have some value. What does that mean? Right? So valid conclusion. And as I mentioned, you have to refer back and forth to the research question, answer the research question. Then students will be in a position to achieve a 5 to 6 mark band. The last but one, no, yeah, it's the fourth one, evaluation. What I have noticed is some students, what they do a fantastic job in context planning. I say, okay, when it comes to DV, they completely forget about evaluation of the conclusion. What is the evaluation of a conclusion? Okay, I've got these results. What is the impact of this result on the environmental issue that I have discussed in the beginning? They forget. What happens if the pH or if the air pollution increases? I see that the peak hours in this particular time in particular area is very high. So what will be the implication on the environment and on the people? Again, you refer back to the environmental issue. If your conclusion, for example, sometimes your hypothesis, you formulated a hypothesis, your hypothesis not supported by the data. So what would you do? Why is the data not supported? You just can say that this is not supported by this data. All right. And that's where why and how, what are the strengths and weakness of your methodology. In research, when we do a research, we all come under assumptions, or we pick up someone else's idea, what they have followed, or change something. Each and every method, what we do may not be perfect. They must be having some hidden weakness, or the limitations they must be having. The limitations of any this one based upon the scope. I have limited my survey questions only to this people, only to these type of questions, only to this particular time of the day. So there must be some sort of a limitations. The limitations and weakness not necessarily is a bad thing. It's always good when a student identify the weakness and the limitations, he can suggest the modification. In the past, what students used to do is they used to write down the list of weakness and they would write the impact of it, and then they would write the modification. You don't require all of that. Very reliable, good 2 to 3 strengths and weakness and modifications enough, but it should be very, very significant, not simply for the namesake. All right. Students can also be encouraged to do the further areas of research. For example, the leachate. Let's take an example of a leachate that we have collected, sprayed on the foliar of one particular plant. But if you change another type of a plant, maybe they would respond better. So that is called as areas of research. When we study in or when we read any of the research papers, you can see recommendations or further areas of research. That is what it is. So all these are interlinked where students can take forward for their graduation courses. All right. So yeah. I'm blabbering. I'm going to stop. If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself. Yes, Marcelo.
Hello. So thank you. So I see you commenting on evaluation for section E, and that is pretty similar to what we did in geography. I have 10 years experience as an IB geography teacher. However, which is something that is a little bit different, and that's what I wanted to know regards the discussion. How are we supposed to do is it the discussion already embedded in the evaluation, or it should be something apart?
Okay, thank you. So your discussion is evaluating the conclusion with respect to EI. So why is this happening? What could be the reasons for it to show that kind of a trend? That is what your discussion. And then you are moving on to the next one, that is strengths and weakness. You are offering wide range of arguments about. So here you are appraising the strength of your experiment. At the same time, you're also suggesting, you're also identifying the weakness, and you're also suggesting the modification. That is what the discussion is. So your discussion, like in geography, you have your discussion, you're discussing the results. Why? What is the reason for it? You place the various arguments about the results that you have got. Yeah. So that is the discussion, and the discussion goes along with the evaluation and conclusion. Okay. So the last but one, application. This time I saw majority of the students have done a pretty good job in application, right? I'm sure that many of the teachers have got well trained, and then students were able to do a pretty good job. Remember, when you apply application, look at the results. What are the results saying? And then, is it relevant to your EI? Then you write about it. How was this solution or the result that you got? For example, microgreens were the best results in one particular substrate. So that's a solution to one of the environmental issue that I've discussed. So I can show, hey, use this microgreens for this purpose. How is this going to reduce the environmental impact that you have mentioned in the beginning? All right. And what are the strengths of this? What happens if you use this? In terms of economics, in terms of societal acceptance, in terms of its environmental friendly. Use the sustainability approaches. Simple. The economy, and then you have your, is it environmental friendly, or will people try to accept this product? And then you move on to the, okay, it is really nutritious, but what about the disadvantages of this particular thing or the weakness of this particular thing? Will everybody able to access? Is it affordable? And then how about the substrate? What do we do with the left out substrate? Can we recycle it? What is that? And then you conclude at the end, give 1 or 2 sentences about the student's personal opinion. Straight away, you get 3 points. Simple, no need. Connect with what is given there with your results and the EI, and then your evaluation. So whenever you get the evaluation, ask your students, make a mini conclusion about the personal opinion. That gives complete marks for fetching 3 marks for application. Yes, Marcelo.
I'm sorry, I just didn't lower my hand. I'm really sorry. My apologies.
Oh, no problem. It's okay.
Ms. Pratibha,
all right. Yeah.
Guru sir had raised his hand. So.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Guru.
Yeah. Ma'am, firstly, thank you very much for this particular session. This is a brilliant. Madam, I have 2 doubts, madam. I have 2 doubts. You are the correct person to answer. Because first, you are the examiner, team leader, and then I have heard your voice, and then I have seen you many IB moderation. So my doubt is, even though I'm teaching for years a long year, the main problem is the word count. So my doubt is, take for example, my low level, middle level students, they will come under 2250. But my toppers always go beyond the 2250. So my first doubt is how you actually guide and have experienced your students about the word count, number 1. Number 2, as an experienced IB examiner, have you ever cut down the students' mark on the IB moderation or IB examiner based on the word count? Have you ever cut down the marks? This students is beyond going the word count. Okay, take down the marks. These 2 doubts, man.
All right. First one, the word count, 2,250 words. This time, very limited number of, I think, maybe 1% of the scripts that I saw beyond the word count. Teachers have trained them very well. So the one strategy you can use is, okay, the context is, it is lengthy. So of course you can have roughly about 300 to 350 or 400. Planning also you can have about 300 because these 2 goes a big chunk. Then your analysis doesn't require much of the words. All right, you can just mention about the trends and data analysis, average counting, and those things. You can keep the limited number of words for the RAC. And then you have your discussion and evaluation. You can have another 300 to 400. Application, roughly less than 200 words. That's it. So when you break down these things, but remember the first 2 chunks requires a good amount of information. The rest of it is less. Your the the context, planning, and DED, maximum chunk of words. Rest of it is less. So if you plan in such a way that it would be easier, all right, sometimes students repeat the same thing over and over, same ideas. So ask them simple statement, very well supported with the data, that's it. Okay. Yes, second question, coming to second question about penalizing. Word count, if it is within 10 words, it's fine. But if it is exceeding beyond that, the application part will be deducted. If your application, you are making a final statement of your personal conclusion, which is really good, you will be, student will be penalized. At the same time, in the communication part, they'll also be penalized. So ask your students, hey, don't overstress yourself. I know everything seems to be important, but let's stick to what needs to be done. So I have included this.
Madam, but do examiner cut down the marks when correcting the IA based on the word count? If the word count is exceeding, do examiner cut down the marks?
Not necessarily. No, sometimes that's what I told you, right? If it is 10 words, something it's okay. But if it is more than, substantial number, for example, more than 50, 100, something like that, obviously it will be penalized they will be dropped out with the application part. But now the students are very, very clear. They are not exceeding the word limit. So the hats off to teachers, they've trained them very well. Yeah. Okay. Yes, the last one, communication. 2,000 to 50 words, and somebody has to follow properly. All right. And then earlier, there was, if the table is present in the first page and the data is also spilling to the second page, and if there are no rows and columns mentioned, they were penalized in the communication. But this time they're a little generous. They're okay with that. So no matter what it is, anytime the things will be changed, tell your students, if the data spills to the next page, ask them to put the titles. So when they put the titles, there is a flow. All right. So, and then make sure that your students don't use the jargons like BOD, all of that. So let them use biological oxygen demand, chemical oxygen demand in the beginning, and eventually they can make it as COD or BOD. All right. Short forms and hi-fi words. If they're using hi-fi words which are not really there, it is there in the textbook or something else, they can use they can refer to it. This means this particular, this is the definition of this particular aspect. All right. And automatically the student will be penalized if the student is not using the italics, the correct conventions of naming either animals or plants. So make sure that they follow this. Automatically they would lose 1 mark. And conventions, for example, SI units. So what conventions? There should be a consistency in using those conventions, SI units. So here it's Homo sapiens, it's wrong. It's supposed to be in italics. So tell your students to make it in italics if they're using the binomial nomenclature. Okay. So make it simple, precise. They can fetch 7th grade actually. It should be very, very simple. And also encourage them to think out of the box, make their learning experiences more enriching. This one I'm skipping. You can use this. What I have done what I've done here, because we don't have enough time, so no breakout rooms. So what I've done is I'm going to stop sharing and then just show you quickly how you can do this particular thing with students. Archana, you raised your hand. Please go ahead.
Hi, Pratibha. This is in connection with Guru sir's question about the word limit and how do we distribute it. So actually, I was actually another thought process that because RAC and DVE are very important criteria in terms of how the students explain and discuss. I always thought that we should reserve more word count for these 2 sections rather than on the prior one. So I don't know how far I am because I thought that's where they need to express the entire thought process about the IA. How well they describe and discuss and analyze.
So you have in your RAC, you have your raw data. You don't need any words there. You're identifying the trends. You are using some statistical tools to show what it is, what it means. And then you are just showing what is the results is about. Finally, when you come to DEV, you have enough time to, enough words to discuss about the conclusion part, enough words to evaluate. So most of the words are in context, planning, and DEV. RAC is mostly the numbers.
Okay,
You're analyzing.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
You're not explaining much, but you're explaining in the DEV part.
Sure.
Yeah. So
Thank
this is a simple, it's called as walk the week. I've used the Project Zero Visible Thinking routine. It's under analyzing and interpretation. So you can use similar thing with the students when you want to introduce. How do we make sense of the newspaper? Some of you have mentioned about the newspaper. So you can use these things. Okay, now let's see, assign some, what do you call, news articles to students in each group. They can use a different color code to see what is the environmental issue about this particular thing and how do the different IAs. So, okay, if I'm using this, can I use this particular aspect for context, or is there any method they have mentioned, or is it an application part, or did they mention about the statistical approach? So you can draw some sort of an ideas about for the IA, all right? And also, what could be the potential IAs one can explore? Okay, if it is a sewage, so I want to go and check if there is any sewage discharge which is beyond the permissible limit nearby my lake. So can I do this? Yes. So what kind of a potential IAs that you can use by using these articles? So I have assigned roughly about 5 to 6. I've used Guardian, I've used Nature, World Economic Forum. World Economic Forum, I've used some solution, some ideas like algae. So if students wants to explore that, let they explore, let us see, all right? Or maybe they can modify the method. They can see what other materials they can use. So you can draw inspiration from such research, such news, such concerns about the environmental issues. There also must be people perceptions and people the angry towards the government or the kind of resource depletion. So you can come across many different. So for one whole week, you can use your local newspaper or maybe international newspaper, give them, let them explore. So that's how you can connect with the IAs, all right? So I have given you those, all the different aspects or different articles. You can have a look at it, okay? So finally, okay, this is done. Okay, now coming to the aspect one. Guru, how much time do I have?
Ma'am, you have another 15 minutes, ma'am. No time.
Okay, that's good. So PSOW, it's not a mandate, but it's always good because when you go to when you go for a review or something, you can use this PSOW. What are the different opportunities that you have given for students to have this experiential learning, practical approach to ESS IAs? All right. So on Manage Back, you have an internal assessment. If you add an internal assessment, you can, for each of the topic, you can mention this is what it is. So at the end of the year, or maybe at the end of the session, 2 years, you can draw and use it. All right. I don't know how many of you have this Manage Back services. So if you have Manage Back services, please make use of these resources. You are in safe side. Anytime, anywhere, if you want to pull out, you have these resources. Okay. And if you don't have, then what you do is you can make a manual one. Okay. I'm going to share that on an IB. You have this. Okay. Yes. Okay. Can you see the IB, this one blog, the approaches to teaching?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, here it is. Can you see ESS PSOW doc? I mean, the PDF doc? No?
Yes,
Okay.
madam, you can see.
All right. This was the previous one way back in, I've seen this in 14 years ago too. So you can do simple one, something like this. Amount of time spent, Okay, for the individual investigation, you have 10. What about the additional time that you're going to spend with the students? So you can use this for your reference. All right, you can note it down. In the earlier, we used to send this when we have to send students work. We have to send this PSOW. So now it is not a mandate, but it is good that you keep a record of this. All right. Okay, now I head back to this one. Okay. Developing skills. I took 1 hour's time to think. Guru has mentioned, oh, decoding ID way. I was thinking, what do you mean by decoding ID way? So I thought about it. Okay, fine. This is what I've understood. If you have any suggestions, you can make already. Okay. So what I did was for HLs, what are the important communication or thinking or social self-management and research skills are required to approach IA? Of course, you have a list of things, but I've chosen only these because based upon my students' proficiency, maybe other ATL skills, they must be good. These are not good for them. I mean, they're not proficient. So I want to teach them. I want to explicitly teach them. So that's how I have listed out. You can go beyond this list. What could be the AT team? So in this presentation, I have given good number of approaches. Starting off with the ATLs. ATLs are very, very important. And then pedagogy. What pedagogy that we need to approach? Is it a pedagogy or andragogy kind of a principles? Whether it is inquiry, conceptual understanding, local context, collaboration. So if you see some of my social skills, it also connects with the collaboration. Am I giving enough time for students to collaborate or collaboratively work? Utilizing technology effectively. So data loggers, right? And there's one thing, every GP teacher is a language teacher, right? So developing international mindedness is the crux of the IB philosophy. So it has essential elements of multiculturalism, multicultural understanding, and global engagement. Since almost all our classrooms are multilinguistic students, we need to make their comfortable. If you want to extend the language, maybe using the mother tongue or scaffolding, right? So we have to make sure that they are being given enough time to develop these skills. Finally, I felt that the learner's profile and aims. When I check the learner's profile, almost all the aims are embedded. Everywhere, each and every aim has IA aspect of it. So what I did, I just used aims and LPR interconnected. When you look into all these 9 aims, invariably they all fall under IAs. So if you show these are the connections. When you explore the guide, you can start making sense. So this is how it is aligned, and this is how I felt it is the IB way. Okay, so last few things. Giving feedback and markings. Few of you have asked, okay, what is the give? How do we give feedback, and how do I mark and send it to IB? First thing, give timely feedback to students. When you give timely feedback to students, they will return the work, and they are more accountable. You're on the safe side. Constructive and meaningful feedback is must. Instead of pointing it out, the grammatical mistakes, question them. Do you think this research question is focused? Think about it. What would you prefer, to use this word over the other? So if you give them sort of a thinking, or maybe kind of a strategy that you would use, I've already posted under resources under Padlet the entire PPT, different types of feedback strategies, starting with the tagging, ladder feedback, and coach. So I have used 4 to 5 different feedback PPTs. If you want, you can use that. All right. And accountability, when you make them accountable of their own learning, they will return the work. And one thing that I've learned, consistent communication with the student is very, very important. If a student is not showing up, if you're giving any feedback, make it send an email to the student so that there is a record of it. Otherwise, sometimes we get into, if you are just ignorant about not giving an oral communication, it may not suffice. So keep everything documented via emails. This is my personal experience. It's very good. Maybe it takes 5 minutes of your time, but then just send an email so that you know you can track what and all communications are gone and with the student, right? So use criteria and look for evidence according to the level descriptor and mark it and send it. Don't hesitate. So has the student has this evidence in order to reach that 5 to 6 level? Okay. I've also given you under resources all of these ideas on how do you mark and then how do you send it. So you can refer to it. So what's next? Set a timeline, shortlist tentative IA demos, PSOWO, identify and procure resources, including subject matter expertise. I've told you about the maths or anybody or a person who's really good at investigations. So find out if there is anybody who is within your colleague or somebody else. You ask them to come for a lecturing or maybe for a guest speaker. Look, maximum thing, look at the local resources, context, and come up with the authentic IA. I'm telling you, some of the IAs in the recently that have done very, very genuine and very nice, and they have done a fantastic job, right? So encourage your students to come up with the authentic ones. Planning learning engagements and also celebrate students. You know, something that I wanted to tell you, if any of your students have done a fabulous work, celebrate it, okay? So make sure that, hey, this is the work that we have selected. Let them present like a research paper. Very recently, I've presented one research paper on green technology, green nanotechnology. So it was very nice. When you're giving these kind of a preparation, they will do a fantastic job when they go to university. So give opportunity for students to present their findings in a short form. Not necessarily they have to present the entire report. Like one poster, this is what I found out. Ask them to speak about for 5 minutes. It would be very nice and they would love it. And archive the best pieces of work for future reference. They become best models for students. You can have these not just only for your this one for ID, for your own reference. Okay, I don't want to take away much of your time. If you can go back and you can, if you are in a positive side, I'm more than happy. If you felt that, okay, my confidence level in each of these things have increased, I'm glad that I have done some sort of a job here. All right. So, yeah. And encode and decode ESS. When is that? I don't know. I'm going to end with this. So I've encoded and I've decoded ESS IA based upon my experience and the knowledge and shared with all of you. Yeah, that's it. I'm open to questions. Yes, Kalpana, go ahead.
Just very quickly, ma'am, could you, I know it's not binding, but could you just help us with the word count that you told about each section? Like,
yeah, what I'll do is I'll put it up in the Padlet itself.
Yeah.
So you can make a note of it.
Thank
okay,
you.
Don't worry. I'll do that. Yes, Guru?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. As an examiner, I actually have this doubt. Madam, so you are an experienced examiner. Can you tell me what make a IA 7? What make a IA 7? This is a quality of 7. Wow. As an examiner, so how do you say, wow, this IA is 7 because of this?
It should be something unique. All right. And it should have substantial amount of data. Without data, even if your IA is too good, they will lose it. So if you have good amount of data and worth exploring, they will get 7. But not necessarily all of them will get 7, because each and every one has that ability. So if a student who has the natural inclination about the research, automatically they'll get 7. But the student who has 6, okay, you can push him, you can get that student into 7. But overall thing, it boils down to what is that is required for each of those criteria. Not too much, not too less, right amount, and the data is what is very, very important. But if the planning or the first part, context and planning, is not set properly, entire lab report would just lose its marks. So that we need to bear in mind. How well you formulate your research questions. Sometimes the students get so bored. By the time they get into RAC, they will lose interest. So push them, go slow, and they will do a fantastic job. Some students who naturally have an inclination to do all by themselves, they're okay. But other students, you need to push them. You need to give them some clues. You need to show them the models. Show good models. They will do a fantastic job. They need models. Otherwise, they don't know what exactly. They're still young. They're not research scholars. We ourselves find it so difficult. So many years of teaching experience, we struggle to produce one IA report, right? So give them models. They will do a great job. Handhold them in the beginning.
Super. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll stop sharing this. I use this Lotus mainly because with so much of clutter that we have around, we rise and shine. So that's why I've used this. It is such a great experience for me to come here and have 16 of you, or now 16. It was 19 in the beginning. Now it is dropped down to 16. Thank you so much for your time. I'm not sure how well I have really, enabled you to understand better, IAS better. Yeah, I don't know. I would like to hear from you. Yes, Marcelo.
Hi. So thank you very much for all your knowledge shared. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. So, ma'am, thank you very much. That was very interesting. I think I learned a lot. What I wanted to ask was actually related to planning. So, section B. I have seen a series of exemplars in the IB database and the IB website that contain a table of variables. So with independent, dependent, and controlled variables. I would like to know if that is a mandatory thing that examiners look for, or just like if students just say, oh, my dependent variables are this and that, and my independent variables are this and that, and my control variables are such and such. Do we need to make do they need to make a table, structured table, like a neat and cute table, or just like a simple list would suffice?
All right. Mentioning variables is not a mandate. However, if it is already present in your research question, it is not required. Already when you're mentioning about, you have this, how are you going to manipulate, or how are you going to ensure that the sampling strategy is done, it is fine. The CV, IV, DV, all done in the past, it's not required as such. For example, when you're comparing the two types of soils, you don't require variables. But in a lab experiment, if you're choosing the increments, IV, DV, and those things, yes, you can, but it is not a mandate for all the IAs. But I would suggest that if the students wants to mention clearly, that's fine, but not to create like a table kind of a thing.
All right.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, teachers, good. So we are now come to the end of the session. So
one sec, Guru. I would like to ask teachers, if your score has improved, you can type in the chat box. So I will get to know. Be honest, it's okay. And in fact, I'm telling you, for each criteria, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the criteria, you need at least 2 hours for each criteria to make you expert. In that short time, it is very difficult. So maybe in future, if you get a chance, if somebody else comes up and asks for, okay, I want only in context, so that you can focus on, that's it. Yeah. Otherwise, there's a lot of repetition. I thought you all must have heard the same thing. So you can avoid the repetition if you're very clear about this is what it is. You want to know, but only planning, only application, right? Yeah. or only setting up the labs. So if you have, if there is any difference between your previous code and this code, you can type in the chat box. Meanwhile, that's it, Guru. Thank you so much. Please
Yes.
go ahead.
Yes. Teachers, first I want to say thank you very much for those who are here, because I know you all are going to start with a new academic session for next year. This session is going to change a lot. But teachers, please know, this session is only for, I told you, for 1 to 2 years of teachers. We approach many examiners for this particular session. Then finally, many new teachers say, Sir, Pratibha Madam is the correct teacher to come and guide us. But teacher, you have to actually listen this particular thing. Before Pratibha ma'am, we approach 2-3 people, examiner, who are very good in IB examiner, but they are not ready to come for the free. So you all people have to really thank Pratibha ma'am. When I say, man, this is a free session, can you come? Okay, she agreed and she just came and she dropped it. Okay, because this is a summer break. Okay, ma'am should have somehow lot of plan. But why she is coming here and taking the session? So can you have a big round of applause first to Pratibha ma'am? Ma'am, thank you.
Thank you.
Because you don't know how much I and the Kalpana madam put the effort to bring an examiner. Finally, you agreed, and then how this session was everyone useful. Teachers, I hope everyone again, this actually look like a category 1 workshop. Because I know many people, we will not go for the category 1 job. It's very costly, and then we don't get at the time, COVID time. But this is how the category 1 workshop. Even though category 1 workshop, you will not have this kind of resources. So how each criteria is well explained. That's a very important thing. Teachers, please note, some of you who are being here, they only actually suggested the Pratibha madam, because I and Kalpana madam was literally confused. Okay, which teacher we can call? But when I was chatting with some of the new teachers, they suggested, sir, go with the Pratibha ma'am. So that's the reason why ma'am is yeah, even though summer break, everyone is here. Thank you very much. You should be at Netherlands, Spain, or Goa beach or Mumbai beach, but you all here in the Zoom session. That's a fantastic. That shows how actually we all tend to learn something new. I hope now everyone have a confidence to take your next academic session with all this criteria. And then please note, teachers, this is a very important thing, because this is first time we actually organize a session only for the new ESS teacher. And Pratibha madam created a history to conduct. Even IB also don't conduct this kind of session. I hope everyone agree, because IB is for everyone. But this is the first time I and Kalpana madam came with the idea, come on, conduct a session only for new teacher, and especially Pratibha madam has agreed. And special thanks to the Kalpana madam who helped me a lot. Kalpana ma'am, thank you very much. Organize each and everything. Okay, because you know how I was busy, but you are helping me a lot, each and everything. So a special thanks to Kalpana madam also. Teachers, I'll be very happy if you all share your experience on the WhatsApp group also, people who are teachers who are missed, and they will also know about how this session is very useful on the WhatsApp group, so that next time we will have a session. And then teachers, we are working for another session also for new teacher. Soon we will conduct, because we all need your support. We all need your actually encouragement to conduct this kind of a session for future also, for the paper 1, paper 2, for other things also. I hope everyone will support. So can I get a thumbs up? I hope future also you all will support for us, because that's a very important one. And especially for the special thanks to the Pratibha madam. Thank you very much. This is a great help. We really enjoyed it. We learn more than that. Even though I'm teaching a lot of years, I learned a lot of things. Yes, we have to celebrate the students. That's the important thing. I got it. Whatever students work, I never celebrate. After you told, yes, I forgot to celebrate my student work. Now, the one thing which I got it, I'm going to celebrate my student work. After this, that's the important thing I have learned. So thank you, Pratibha ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know many of you have joined from different time zones, Canada and Bahrain, Hong Kong. I know it must be a different time zone for you. Thank you so much. I hope I made a difference, at least some strategies, 1 or 2 things if you picked up. It is, and also I'm very grateful for giving me this opportunity to take this session. Thank you so much, Guru, Kalpana, and all the participants. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, teachers. Please share your experience on the WhatsApp group. Also, Pratibha madam, please wait. Kalpana madam also wait. Thank you very much, teacher.
Thank
We'll-
you,
I'm present
everyone.
too.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guru, can we stay back after
Yes, yes,
after
yes,
this?
madam. I'm staying back. I'm staying. Thank you, Kathleen. Kalpana madam, you can put other teachers on the. Thank you, Kathleen ma'am. Thank you so much. Appreciate your join.
Thank you.
Kalpana madam, you can put maybe Irina madam in the waiting room,
Yeah, yes, sir. Just trying.
and ESS Gudumantra also waiting room.
And
This
stop
is
recording.
new for me, so I'm just
No, that is not. That is my another one.
no. This I generally use Google Classroom, so I'm very well versed with that. So this I haven't used Zoom so much.
Ma'am, Pratibha, how much time you took for this presentation? Fantastic, brilliant.
Yes, sorry.
How much time you took to make this presentation?
How much time? The moment you said, I was thinking, what is this IB way? Okay, all right. Until yesterday, I was thinking around what to do. I said, okay, fine, let me pull it off.
Such a catchy one, right? Guru sir came up with that. It's a really catchy one.
Yeah.
The last two slides are very ATS skill. Yes, now I am getting a new idea that ATS skill, everything. That's a brilliant.
So yeah, in fact, Guru, I mean, it's a wonderful thing because I hardly take part in such kind of things, and you scare the hell out of me.
You can stop recording. Stop recording.
Yeah.